And welcome back to Luminary Leaders. My name is Shelly Harrison and I'm your host. And I have Ashley McGuire with me here today. And we'll get to Ashley in just a moment. I want to thank you for tuning in. We are streaming on different platforms on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and a couple of Facebook pages. So you can catch us in the Global Women's Networking Group. We have over 5,000 members there. And then on my LinkedIn profile, we have several thousand people there, and we have a great guest today. So I want to welcome Ashley McGuire, and we're going to be talking about cultivating connection and transformative relationships. So Ashley, welcome to Luminary Leaders Live.
Thank you, Shelly. It's great to see you again.
It is, and we've known each other for over 5 years. We worked together for a little while, and it was so much fun working with you because, you just bring this light anywhere you go, and you're just so calm and just insightful. And I'm really excited to get into this conversation today because you've been doing some extraordinary work. And let's start there. The work that you do, Ashley, and you are a speaker, you do a lot of workshops. So let's talk about the work that you do.
Great. So I'll try to give you a quick snapshot because it's pretty broad, but in a nutshell, I work with relationships wherever they show up. And we are in relationships in every part of our lives, at work, at home, at school. So I work with organizations, schools, and universities to help cultivate positive, healthy relationships in their culture and in their environment. And then I also work in the home with families and couples so that they can transform conflict into connection, so that they can form deeper bonds with one another, they can hear one another better, and build a happier, healthier future for themselves.
Oh, and that just sounds so refreshing because I think there are a lot of households and companies and organizations where sometimes people just don't communicate. And, there's walls up and obstacles. And, when you think of relationships in a variety of settings, what are some of the common factors you highlight in helping people build healthy relationships?
Oh, so this is funny. I always talk about love first, and I get lots of pushback from sort of the more stiff organizations until I talk to them a little bit deeper and I say, we all are humans. We love. We are built to love. When we lead with love, when we are leaders that put love first, when we put love first in our relationships, then we can break through a lot of difficulty, challenges, and disconnection. And right now, our culture at large is facing a lot of division. We've got social media, people attacking one another left and right. We've got cancel culture happening. So what I focus on in my workshops and when I'm working with couples and families are a few pillars. One of them is dignity. We have to treat one another in such a way that we are maintaining the dignity of ourselves and everyone with whom we're speaking. And I mean everyone. It makes such a huge difference to do that. I also really like to work with folks on unconditional positive regard. So this is actually a concept that was originated by Carl Rogers, a psychotherapist that many people know. Unconditional positive regard, when we engage that, we're looking at the other person and saying, I know that you're human. I know that you suffer. I know you have flaws. I suffer. I have flaws. I hold space and grace for you, and I ask that you hold space and grace for me. Now, we can do that while keeping ourselves safe, while holding boundaries. We can do that without allowing ourselves to be hurt. But when we approach one another with dignity and unconditional positive regard, we change everything. We change the entire tenor of our relationships.
Oh, yeah. Wow. And, when you say with grace, I mean, I think of, when you do have those, situations where people feel like they're not seen, let's talk about, how people can feel more included, and that they are seen and that they do matter.
Well, we tend to project our pain onto others, and we also need to project our desires onto others. So I would really like for you to see me. So I'm going to make sure I see you. I'm going to
Mm.
make sure that I look at you and look at the whole person that you are. And I'm going to remember when we showed up to work yesterday, you mentioned something about your daughter or your daughter's baseball team losing. And I'm going to keep that in mind. You have things going on in your life. I have things going on in my life. We have to hold space and grace for one another to be human, to show up as humans, and not judge one another too harshly for being human. We don't want to be judged, so we can't judge others. Now, sometimes people show up and they harm us. I get that. And we have to have ways to address that, to stand up for ourselves, to set strong boundaries. And we can also show grace and dignity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Before we go a little bit further, we're going to actually have a quick commercial break. And I want to remind everybody, we are here with Ashley McGuire. And I can't wait to get into the rest of the conversation, but we'll be right back after this commercial break. All right. And we are back with Ashley McGuire. And Ashley, there's a lot of just a lot of things happening, like you mentioned, in our world today, cancel culture and, some of those other things that are happening. What do you think people could do now in just not so much in in their household, but out in public? What can they do differently that can make people feel more included and, just make it a kinder world? I mean, what
Mhm.
kind of suggestions do you have?
We have to always consider the impact of what we're saying and what we're doing.
Mhm.
And I'm going to flip it to the other side. If I hear that someone is saying something that is hurtful to me, I have to understand that everyone has a different opinion. Everyone's coming from a different place. And
Mhm.
just because they have an opinion that I don't like doesn't mean that I have to hate them. It doesn't mean that I have to try to cancel them. If someone is attacking me personally, that's a different scenario. But if
Mhm.
someone is saying an opinion that is very different from what I believe, we don't have to attack or other them. And in fact, thankfully, we have a world full of different opinions, because if we all believe the same thing, it'd be incredibly boring. And I have learned personally from people who disagreed vehemently with me, right? So I've had many situations where I've encountered people's opinions that initially really bothered me. But
Mhm.
when I was curious, and I love talking about curiosity, it's one of the best skills you can cultivate. When I
Oh.
was curious, and I engaged with an open heart, with unconditional positive regard, I may not have flipped entirely to their opinion, but I came to understand the value of their opinion and how their opinion was informed. And the end result is I am more informed. So, and then, always consider the impact of what you're saying. Are you seeking to hurt? Are you seeking to uplift? Like, what's your goal when you're speaking?
Mm.
Because whatever your goal is, you're going to achieve it, right?
That's right. That's right. And that word curiosity, let's ponder on that because, even doing this interview, I, as the host, have to be curious about my guest. And the curiosity that I have, that's why I don't do a lot of background research about them. I just want to, meet them where they're at. And curiosity with other people, I think it can really open up more conversation and get them in a place where they're a little more comfortable, to want to have that conversation, or, maybe interact a little bit, at the grocery store, or, at the beach, if you're on the beach and, somebody is, near you and you want to start a conversation and have that curiosity. But it's just intriguing. So when you think of curiosity, what really excites you about, curiosity? Because you mentioned, that's something that you.
Mhm. It's one of my primary focuses when I'm working with folks is helping them engage in curiosity. And I know we'll probably talk about play a little bit later because I use play to engage curiosity a lot. But when we are truly curious, we are incapable of also being judgmental. When we're
Mm,
asking folks questions about themselves coming from a truly curious place, we
mhm,
cannot also be passing judgment. And we are providing a space for folks to show up in their full authenticity, to show us more about themselves. We are showing up as learners. We're showing up without any preconceived notions or assumptions. And all of that is very healthy communication. And frankly, we don't have enough curiosity. I'm still the strange person that talks to people in line at the grocery store
oh,
because I like to make friends
that's so
everywhere I
funny.
go. And I'm
Oh
endlessly
my gosh.
curious. I've had a
Yeah.
lifelong dream of setting up a table in a popular
Oh,
area, sort of like peppermint patty and peanuts, and
oh,
instead
how
of
cute.
psychiatrist 5 cents, I'll listen to your story for free.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Can you imagine if you did that? And
uh,
just have a really nice, pretty table and go to a place where people are coming in and out with these sourpuss looks and just brighten their day. I mean, how wonderful would that be?
and in fact, it is a core component of the concept of belonging. In
Mm,
order to belong, we have to be able to feel that our stories can be told. So when we have people to tell our stories to at work, at home, wherever, then
mhm,
we feel an immediate sense of belonging because our story becomes the part of the fabric of
mhm.
the community's stories. It's very important to be able to tell your story.
Well, you are definitely just someone that is very informative with this kind of, you know, experience and the way that people connect and communicate and the play. Let's get into that because I know, the play is important in at home, in the office, wherever, we can use that kind of experiential playfulness, I guess you
Yep.
could say.
Yep. Embodiment is so important. And when we are engaged in play, a lot of people think of play as like, oh, team building or icebreakers or whatnot. But play can be very, very intentional and very purposeful and can lead people toward incredible learning, incredible connection, and true
Yeah.
community building and trust building. So when we're in a state of play, we naturally reduce our inhibitions and open our
Mhm.
communication. When
Oh,
we are facing very difficult challenges, particularly with couples and families, I really love to do this. When they're facing really difficult challenges, we move slowly and carefully into a state of play. But once we're there, we can practice addressing these challenges in a
mm,
silly and fun way that informs us when we're back to being serious. We can practice communication, we can practice conflict resolution. And one of my favorite things to do is to, at the beginning of a speech or a presentation, to bring the
mhm.
entire audience into an activity together. I've done
Oh
this with audiences over 300 people. It's
my
very,
god.
very fun.
Yeah.
And it just brings a room full of strangers into a space where they all feel like friends and they're warm and they're ready to connect. It's amazing.
Oh, that's yeah, as you talk right now, I'm in a year-long, it's an EQ mastery workshop with productive learning, so I'm giving them a little plug. And it's intriguing, being socially aware of what's going on around us and how to better fit into society. And we did this experience, and it was, playful, and it was last Friday actually, and it was the most awkward thing I think I've ever done. And I thought, okay, I'm going to play along with this because what we had to do was, and this is, how you perceive others. And we had to sit next to each other, but, knees fairly close together, in chairs. and literally look in that other person's eyes. And it was for at least 2 minutes, not one.
Mm,
But then we would stop, close our own eyes, and then we would go back and look in their eyes again. And
mhm,
by the time we were done, we probably looked in each other's eyes, and we had to look into the souls of one another. And by the time we were done, it was a little more comfortable. But then I thought, I don't think I've ever looked in anybody's eyes that long, not even my own husband,
mhm.
but my kids. That's all I can think of is the only time I've ever looked that long into anybody's eyes was my kids. But playfulness and doing that it put me at first I was awkward, but then I kind of eased into it. So it's
Mhm.
fascinating, when you do those kind of things with people that you really don't know.
Definitely. And I will say about the awkwardness, there's a beautiful space right outside everyone's comfort zone. And it's different for every single person, right? And
Yeah.
one of the things that I really focus on in reading my audiences, whether they're a smaller group in a workshop or a larger audience, is really gauging where is their starting point? What's
Yeah.
their easiest point of entry?
Mhm.
Because if we have time to put up resistance against the activity, it won't have the value that it needs to have. So the
Yeah.
setup for an activity is really crucial, the facilitation of the activity, whatever it is, but then also the debrief. So in the debrief process, I never tell folks what it is they're supposed to have learned. They tell me
Mhm.
what they were supposed to have
Oh,
learned and what they did learn. And I have done, in many cases, I've done the same activity dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of times, and
yeah.
heard something different from almost every single group. It's
Oh, I would
it's really
imagine.
remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Can be.
safety is very important in play.
It
Yep.
it is. It absolutely is. Yeah. Well, I know, Ashley, we're coming to the end of the episode, and I want to ask you, number one, how can people get a hold of you?
Thank you. So you can find me at ashleymcguire.com. There's a contact page, so please reach out. And I will say that I offer everyone what I call an intentionally valuable consultation. So if
Oh,
you reach out and chat with me, you're going to get value from it. You can ask me anything. I'll tell you about my services. But I want you to leave there feeling uplifted and you're walking away with a tool or two that you can use right away.
oh, I love that. And then what is next for you, Ashley? When you think of, a year or two out, what's next for you?
What's next for me is helping other folks do what I do. So I really want to bring others along on my journey. I have incorporated my own personal healing process through many conflicts and a lot of relationship work. I've incorporated my own learning, everything from my past as a director to training in restorative justice to conflict resolution training and play, all of that. So I'm weaving that into a program
Mhm.
and bringing other folks along who want to help heal the world, which is essentially what we're all trying to do here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show today, Ashley. It was wonderful to connect with you and just really have you share your wisdom. And thank you for gracing us today with so many insightful things that people can actually do. And in terms of getting a hold of you, I encourage people to get a hold of Ashley. She's very just wonderful to work with, and I don't know. I just think you're a ray of sunshine, whenever I think of
Right back
Ashley.
at you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, most definitely. And I want to thank our audience for joining us today. And if you're just catching us, go back to the beginning. Like I always say, make sure you watch the full episode. It's been a wonderful and insightful conversation with myself and Ashley. And again, we were streaming on multiple platforms. So thank you to those of you that engage with this episode. And I want to say thank you again, and we will catch everyone next time. Thank you, Ashley, for being here with us.
Thank you. Stay curious and go play.
Yes, go play and be curious. Great. Bye.